Well, I'm going to go ahead and make another switch top. So let's add another switch. And let's go ahead and let's plug our first switch into the second switch. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and plug my debug info into that switch as well. Now we could see that I could turn on and off my debug info, but thinking about that, I don't know if I want to just like change these two. I think I want to be able to see all of this information on top of this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add an under top. My switch is going to go in the first input. I'm going to scoot this over. My debug info is going to go in the bottom. Okay, that's looking good. And now I'm going to plug all of this into my switch. Okay. So now what I end up with is now when I flip that switch on and off, I can see that I'm turning my debug info on, but it's still coming up on top of my content. On this switch, let's go ahead and point right here to this debug info parameter. I want to bind that also. Parent par debug info. So I should be able to turn that on and off. Okay. And now I'm going to route that here to my final. And now let's check to see if this is in fact behaving that I want it to. Now let's check first. All right. So I can turn my debug info on and off. Okay, I like that. I can turn my calibration pattern on and off. I can turn my calibration pattern on and my debug info on. I like that a whole lot because I definitely probably want to be able to use that. And when my debug info is on, I can find out whether or not that blueprint text is there. Maybe I don't really need to know the prototype container for this every single time, but I might want to just if if something's gone wrong and I want to figure out what mischief might be up in the world, I want that to be able to happen. And then finally, here's my border color. Now we could, wouldn't be a crazy idea to think that we might add another toggle to turn the border color on and off, but I will leave that up to you to play with. For now, I'm going to go ahead and just change that to orange. I think I like that just a little bit better. I'm going to turn off my calibration pattern. I'm going to turn my blueprint text on. I'm going to dive inside and I'm going to go ahead. For now, I think I'm going to leave. No, I'm going to change this video. Rather than starting with the banana, I'm going to start with, let's say, movie file, movie.1.mp4. The, majestic lake scene of winter and spring and hot and cold and everything is majestic. Okay, here inside, let's Control S. Aha! Okay, this Tox is not yet externalized. Do you want to externalize it? I do, but I don't want to do both this one and the parent. I only want to do this comp. And this time I'm going to go to my modules and I'm going to put this in a folder called Blueprints. You might not have that folder already. So if you don't, let's take a minute to go ahead and make that. I'll delete it. You can right click, new folder, underscore blueprints. I'm using this underscore because that makes sure it jumps to the top, very top of my list here. Inside of blueprints, I'm going to go ahead and select this folder and save. All right, magically, I should have this now externalized. I can check that by looking at the common page. And sure enough, I can see that it's got a path out to an external Tox. Okay. Now I want to reuse a bunch of this. Like if you were making one for projectors, one for LED walls, one for LCD walls, you're going to have customizations that you make for each one of these on the internals. We're not going to fuss with that too much. We're just going to make sure that we understand the essential ideas of what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to copy paste this operator. I'm going to change its name to LED because this is for an LED wall. I'm going to right click on blueprint type, disable read only, change this to be LED wall, right click, enable read only. We'll see a bunch of our text has updated already. Okay, that's really swanky and swell. I'm going to change the border color. I'm going to change it to be like this fuchsia. Ooh, dark fuchsia. Now, if I go inside and save this, it's actually going to overwrite the wrong Tox. So to use this technique, what we have to do first is go to the common page. We've got to delete that path to an external tox. So we're going to pretend like this is brand new. Now we can go inside, Control S. Hey, this isn't externalized yet. Would you like to externalize it? I do, but only this comp. I want to put it in modules, in blueprints, same place, save that folder, okay. 2 down. Let's do that one more time, rinse, repeat. We're going to practice the same idea. Let's start by getting rid of that external path to our tox. We're going to right click, disable read only. This time, I'm going to change this to be LCD. So this is an LCD screen, kind of like prototype. We can even say LCD screen. And you might say, Matt, what's the difference between an LED wall and LCD screen? Every different display technology has different kind of bits that you've got to wrangle with it. So it doesn't hurt to think about the endpoint as being one of the elements that you might need to have extra handles for. You might feel like you can accommodate that need with a different kind of set of parameters. Go for it. This is just my particular perspective on this. I'm going to go ahead and change this border color to be, say, like green. I'm going to change the name of this. Instead of container underscore LED, I'm going to make it LCD. I'm going to zip inside, Control S, save only this comp, go back to modules, back to blueprints. I'm just going to stay right here in this folder. And now if we actually check here in our directory, right, modules, our blueprints, we should see that sure enough, we've got all of these prototypes already made for us. Except I messed something up. What I messed up was I left the same default video on all of these. So let's fix that. Our projector, let's leave that with the movie file it's got. Our LED wall, let's change the movie file for that to say be movie 3. Okay, ooh, I like that. Control S, save. I want to overwrite this tox, great. All right, what about this one over here? All right, my LCD, I'm going to change that movie to be maybe like 5. What's 5 again? Ooh, it's too much of the same nature-y. What about 4 instead? Okay, rad. Control S, save, continue. I love it. All right, so now we have some default videos that are here inside of our prototypes. I love it. And you're going to say, wait a minute, those are common assets. Why don't those live in this asset space? And the idea, again, is I want to have a blueprint, a prototype that doesn't just live only with this project and is dependent on this container, right? This, it's got to be in something that's got something that has an output assets global op shortcut, that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want this to be a little bit more generalized for that. And you'd also rightly say, hey, Matt, you know what? This thing, this calibration pattern, it's got that pointer already there. Oh, and that's a very clever observation. So let's fix that. Let's right click on our projector. Let's go ahead and customize our component. And let's practice another really clever technique that we could employ here. So let's add another parameter called calibration texture. This isn't going to be a string. This is also going to be an op. So let's add that parameter. Over here, let's drag that down to our calibration pattern toggle. Let's add a section. Womp, womp. Let's add the section on our debug info. There we go. Okay. So now, rather than this expression living down here, let's borrow that, copy. In our calibration texture, let's put that in as our default. Let's see if that worked. Oh, womp womp. Let's make that an expression. Okay, cool. So far, so good. I like it. The other thing that we could probably do here to make our lives just a little bit simpler as we think about this, right, is let's make sure we go inside. And for this one here, let's make sure that instead of looking at output assets, we look at our parent parameter called calibration texture. Oops, did we spell that right? Oh, we misspelled it here. Texture. All right. Right, so like we mentioned earlier, you might decide that actually, you know what, I need to change some element of this prototype. Well, we can change it that way. Let's dive inside. Let's Control S, save. All right, we've updated this one. Oh, but now I have these other two. What am I gonna do about that? Well, luckily for us, let's dive in here. We happen to know this is gonna look at the same, right? This select is gonna be the same across the board, so we'll fix that in a minute. On our container LED, let's right click, Customize Component. If we click on our projector, we can actually go ahead and grab that calibration texture and we can bring that parameter right on over. And I don't need it to actually do any binding for me. I just want to have a new parameter here that I can scooch up and then add a section on, right? So now I've managed to very sneakily copy and paste that right over. Let's do the same thing here with our LCD. Before we do that, let's make sure that we borrow the expression that we just wrote, right? Parent par calibration texture in LED on its select calibration. Let's update that. Let's save this blueprint. Okay, great. We've updated that. Let's come over here to our LCD. Same idea. Oops, we're going to right-click Customize Component on our LCD. We're going to borrow that calibration texture parameter that we made previously. We're going to add another section. If we take a look, aha, excellent. Let's go ahead and turn on that reference. Rad. Let's also make sure that we borrow this expression, right? My parent's parameter calibration texture. All right, let's zip over. Let's dive inside. Let's update that expression. Okay, great. So now, oh, and let's do one last thing. Let's Control S, save while we're in here. Okay, so now this set of blueprints, all the information that drives their internals is going to be applied from the top level, right? Or from things that happen to be in storage in the case of these goobers all the way deep down here. Now we could, right? We could use a similar kind of idea where rather than grabbing from storage here, we could come up here, up one more. We could put those parameters up here on the settings on the top. Again, that's up to you to make that adjustment and make that work.